Let's be honest, when people think about fitness, they think about training, nutrition, macros, workout plans, step counts, but what about sleep? I think sleep is hands down one of the most underrated aspects of fitness, and people love to talk about pushing harder in the gym, cutting calories, trying all the latest supplements, but if you're not sleeping enough, you're actively sabotaging your progress. And the craziest part is most people don't even realize it. Because if you feel like you're doing everything right, hitting your workouts, sticking to your nutrition plan, but you're still not seeing the results you want, your sleep or lack of it is likely the culprit.
Yeah, I think this is something that like we all overlook. Like sleep is it's so underrated and it just kind of gets pushed to the side. And like you said, we focus so much on nutrition and our training, right? And then I mean, it doesn't matter how, dialed in you are. We don't even think about the sleep, right? So, and that's one of the things we talk about. If someone's struggling with fat loss or muscle recovery or energy levels, stress, mental health, a lot of times we look at poor sleep as being like that root cause. And, like we said, most people treat this like an afterthought. They're like, oh, you've heard this, right? You've heard things like, oh, I'll just sleep when I'm dead, or I don't know. That used to be something that was more common, I guess, when I was younger. I remember people say that a lot, or this is, I think, maybe more common now is like, I'll just catch it up on the weekend,
Mm.
you know, and, um, nowadays, especially in our society, like being as busy as possible is considered successful. And it's almost like if you have extra time to do things, it's almost like, well, you're kind of being lazy. Why aren't you doing something? And so sleep even now might be more important just because of the way I think our society is structured. It might be more important than actual exercise and diet. So in that mindset just kind of might be why a lot of people are struggling, especially if they just feel like they're really locked in with nutrition and training. They're like, I don't see a change. I don't know what's going on. So, it could be sleep. So today, I think it's really important. We're going to break down why sleep is so important for your health and fitness, how like poor sleep, either not enough sleep or bad quality sleep, is wrecking your results, the science behind how sleep impacts fat loss and muscle gain and recovery, and then most importantly, we'll provide you ideas and thoughts and ways to fix it so we can start seeing progress again.
Yeah, and going off of too what you said about the sleep when you're dead or being busy, I feel like a lot of people wear that as a badge of honor now too. Even with like the hustle culture online, everyone's like grinding 24/7, and I've got caught up in that too. But it shouldn't be a badge of honor like that. We need to prioritize it like anything else.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. You hear that all the time, right? Like, oh, I didn't sleep at all last night, or I get a few hours of sleep, but it sounds cool, right? Like that you're able to function and still
Right.
not. But now I'm like, oh man, I gotta get as much sleep as I can get, type of thing.
Yeah.
Um, I'll tell you something funny. I asked my girls. I said, hey, you guys you have any tips for me about sleep on the podcast tonight? And they're like, yeah, don't sleep too much. You'll never be tired. And I was thinking that's usually the opposite of what the problems we're having here. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
anyone listening to this is gonna be like, you know what, guys, look, I just sleep way too much. I just sleep like 10, 11, 12 hours a day. I don't even know what to do.
I wish I had that problem.
That'd be easy to cut back, right? Cut back on sleep. I've never had that conversation. I really think you need to cut back on sleep.
Right. Man, I've had that conversation with a couple of clients when they like get into working on it. They're like, oh my gosh, I am sleeping like 9, 10 hours. Like, what do I do? But it's a lot more rare.
Yeah, yeah, right, for sure.
And you and me were just talking about, like, I wish we could be asleep right now before we record this.
I know it's getting late, or we're like, man, we're getting tired. It's it's
How's my
been really
bedtime
long.
already?
It's been a long day. It's been a long day, but
Well,
uh,
I know you got your walking pad recently. How's that been going? How are the steps?
oh yeah, and I want to make sure because I think there's still people out there that don't know what a walking pad is, and sometimes I live in this little tiny world of my own, and I'm like, oh, why doesn't everyone have a walking pad or no one know what it is? But basically, it's like this. I describe it like a little mini treadmill that you can kind of. It's very easy to store, but you can put it under walking desks or tables or anything like that. And one of the things in my classroom, or just education nowadays, they don't give us much time to be active. Even like during the recess, it's just a shortened time of the day, and we have these long, super long blocks of reading and math, and so I thought it'd be really cool to get like a walking pad for the classroom. So I use it when I have breaks or things like that, but I give the kids opportunities to walk in class, and so basically they get these little reward tickets, and anytime they want, they don't have to ask. They just if they have a ticket, they get up and they put it in this little box, and then they hop on the treadmill, and whenever they feel the need, to get up and move, they can hop on that treadmill and walk. So it's been super cool. I think for them, it gives them an opportunity. One, it gives them to kind of be on their own. They don't have to ask. They can just kind of do something that they feel antsy at the desk. Instead of just falling over out of the desk or talking or something like that, they get up, walk over there. So I think it's super cool, and it's been really nice for me. I was bopping during a meeting the other day, and they're all laughing at me. But it was great. I love it. I think it's been really cool.
Yeah, and I love that the kids are all getting into that too. I feel like it's so good in just instilling that habits and getting them excited about that and having it something that they look forward to. I feel like every kid needs that under their desk. Obviously, that'd be very expensive. Like no school would ever do that. But I feel like kids would be so much more productive and control their energy a lot more if they would be able to move throughout the day as opposed to just being stuck at a desk.
Yeah, I know. It's I mean, it's just a mini version of adult life for a lot of
Um,
people. A lot of people are
yeah.
just stuck at a desk all day long, and so, that's what we do with our clients. We talk about either having a lot of mini breaks, or they're getting up a lot, or standing desks are great, or they're standing, or, just taking breaks and walking down the hallway. But the kids don't have that control. They
Mhm.
can't just be like, hey, you know what? I'm out. I'm gonna go walk down the hallway. They
Yeah,
just, they can't do that. So this gives them a little more control over, being active, and they all definitely need it.
I love that.
So what about yourself? What's going on with Mackenzie?
Not much, just getting through this crazy work season, getting ready for my trip next week to Puerto Rico. I'm kind of excited for that. Um, I keep catching myself stressing about it because I've always struggled with vacations and just taking time off and getting out of my routine and everything. But I'm finally getting more into that mindset of just going with the flow and just releasing control and being like, hey, my business isn't going to fall apart. Like, everyone's going to be fine. I'm not going to lose progress on anything. Like, we're good. I just need to go and chill, enjoy it, especially just after a bunch of crazy work the last few months. So I feel like it'll be much needed.
Yeah, you got to get out there and enjoy that time. I mean, I'm the opposite. When I'm like, I can't wait for the vacation. I can't wait to take it. It's gonna be so much fun. I'm gonna love it, enjoy it. So, and even like, even when you do have to do work things on a trip, like I feel like it's just more in my control. I can do it at a better pace, and I enjoy the work actually better a lot of times because, like I said, it's just a lot less stress going on around me.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, and especially with my goal of just more experiences and relationships, like I knew I had to do it. It came up last minute, which is usually like I'm planning stuff months and months in advance just because I'm very structured and organized. But came up last minute, I'm like, oh, fuck it, let's just go, let's do it. Why not?
Yeah, I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun. Of course, we want to hear all about it when you get back.
Get the updates for sure.
Yes,
But
yes.
yeah, other than that, I've just last week too, I've definitely been overextending myself with work. It's one of those things that's just a necessary season, but I caught myself last weekend just needing to realign myself. And so I took the weekend I went to the beach. I turned off my phone, left it in my car, and just did a ton of journaling and reflecting and praying and everything. And it was just very much needed because I've just felt a little bit out of alignment just with always thinking about the next thing, always like just not fully present with what I'm doing just because there's so much going on in my head. I'm so stressed about all this stuff. So I'm always like bouncing around from one thing to another. And I realized like I wasn't fully present, intentional, just like the best way I can describe it was just feeling like out of alignment, just not being the exact person that I wanted to be. And so I was able to just catch myself on the minute, like, all right, this is what I need to do. I dove deep on that, just went through my whole journal and everything, and then got to a good place. So this week I've been much more intentional, just about being fully present and locked into whatever I'm doing. Nothing else matters. I'm putting all my focus and energy into that and doing it the best I possibly can, whether that's answering clients, getting on calls. We're running this challenge right now in the group, which has been awesome. And it's been so cool just being present with everyone there. So that's been another shift that I made this week that I'm really enjoying and just feeling so much better going into this week, even though work is still crazy, but like I feel mentally much better about it.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people get in that they get stuck with like I have so much to do, I don't have time to take that time to kind of to rest and break it down just like you did.
Mm.
But then once they take that, like you did, you feel so much more energized and you feel more intentional. Like you said, you feel more present in what you're doing.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And I'll be honest, I had that mentality too. Like all week I should have done it because I felt it like all of last week, but I'm like I don't know how. I don't have time for it. But I'm like, all right, this weekend I actually need to like set aside that good solid block for it. But no, that is a really good point. The more you do that, the better you can get like back on track, and the faster you can be more productive and more aligned with what you're doing.
Yeah, we've talked about this already today, but the society is just that work culture. Just everything's got to push, push, push. We got to go fast, fast, fast. But that person, or someone that can just kind of slow everything down. There was a movie, I can't remember what it was. A baseball movie, so of course I loved it. But the pitcher, what he would do is, the crowd's going crazy and there's so much noise around him, and he would just kind of like hone in on just one little sound in his mind. And he would say something to himself, and all of a sudden, just like everything disappeared. It was all quiet, and he was in his own little zone. It just seemed like just the world just slowed down for him, and he just really took control and just fed off of that. And I think that's what we need to do every day. Especially when you get kind of stressed out or a lot of things start piling up. Just need to kind of slow down and pull everything to ourselves and figure out what's the next move, and just know that it's all gonna be right. We got it. And do what you need. Take some time for yourself too.
Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in the next thing, especially when you have so much on your plate. Like you're always thinking about what's next and like trying to rush through to get to that next thing. But yeah, I've literally caught myself like every time I'm switching from item to item or like task to task, I literally like sit, like take a few seconds to reset. Like sometimes I'll get up and like jump around and like hype myself up and be like, all right, we're getting locked in, we're being present, we're being intentional. Like all the energy is flowing to this one task, and it's actually been super helpful. I know it sounds weird just like going and doing that, but like it helps me get focused and be like, all right, this is what I'm doing and nothing else matters.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, but getting into sleep,
All right. Let's talk about sleep.
this is one of the things I've struggled a lot with, to be honest. It's like we talked about, it's one of my kind of intentions the last few months and going into this year. And I think for me, anxiety has always made it very hard for me to sleep too. And I know when me and most of our clients sleep is usually the first thing to go out the window. It's easy to pull from when you have so much going on, work gets crazy, life gets crazy. So I know I have to be very intentional about prioritizing this like I have been. And that's why it's been one of my biggest goals this year. And it's easy to get caught scrolling too on your phone before bed. I think it's easy to negotiate with yourself. I'll find myself pushing back work later, or just a lot of times I feel like we need that me time unplugging from work between when you go to bed. And so I find myself negotiating. It's the only thing that I catch myself making a ton of excuses on, which I don't like. Um, and I also really like waking up early, but obviously then when you're pushing your bedtime back, it kind of messes up your whole next day, or you're just setting yourself up for failure going to the next day.
So if you have a later night, whatever we were talking about, you were playing volleyball the other day. You stayed up a little bit later. So do you set the same schedule the next day? Like, do you wake up early at the same time, or do you wake up later, or what do you how do you usually handle that?
Yeah, it kind of depends. Like last night, I was literally playing volleyball till 9 p.m. That was my
Which
definition of
was it's super late, right?
raging, absolutely raging. um, but no, it was fun. Like that type of thing is like normally I try to stay very strict with my bedtime just because it's been one of my biggest focuses, but also my focus is relationship and experiences, and volleyball is one of the things that fills my cup more than anything. So like, that's one of the few times where I'm like, okay, it's actually worth it for me to sacrifice my sleep for this. But yeah, so I was up pretty late last night from volleyball. But today, no, I woke up at the exact same time. Like I got up at 5 and did my work and went to the gym and everything, watched the sunrise as usual. But like this is because it's a busy season that like I'm really focusing on sticking to my routine and just making sure that I'm like getting everything done that I need to. But in some cases, like depending on how sleep deprived I am or what I have going on, like I may push it back a little bit just because sleep has been such a big focus for me and I want to make sure that I'm getting enough. So even if I do push it back, it's like 30 minutes an hour though, just making sure I'm getting a little bit of extra. So it kind of just is on a time to time basis.
Yeah, it's very similar though every morning.
Yeah. What about you?
I'm the same. There was a time. So obviously, when I was younger, I'd stay up a lot later, and you'd wake up a lot later, and I'd have those times where I'd sleep in. But as I got older, and the more research I read about things, one thing that I found was really interesting one time. It was talking about sleeping in and sleeping late, depending on when you went to bed, and basically they were saying that even if you stay up late, to still wake up at the same time, because basically it's like you're giving yourself jet lag. And a good example is a lot of people will be pretty consistent throughout the week because they have to get to work, right? They have to wake up a certain time to get to work. But then on the weekend, they'll sleep in a couple hours or something like that. And they're basically giving themselves jet lag on Monday because they have to wake up again super early. And then, so of course they feel exhausted,
Hmm.
when they get to work, and that just kind of carries on for the rest of the week, and that cycle just keeps on going. So it doesn't matter how late I stay up, there might be a little variance of like 30 minutes, type of thing for me, depending on if on the weekend or if I stay up super late. But I basically try to keep it within, 30 minutes every single day. And I'm pretty consistent with it. So, and I feel a lot better. I mean, there have been times where I've stayed up way later than, I wanted to for certain reasons, and I still get up at the same time, and I have that energy throughout the day. I don't
Hmm.
feel any worse, and a lot of times it makes it easier to fall asleep at night too.
Oh yeah.
So that's a big win as well.
Yeah, I feel like it feels so much better because I like sometimes I'll like sleep in like an extra hour plus on the weekends, depending. Like sometimes like my sleep gets pushed back a little bit, and I hate that just because it does throw me off so much. Like people get in that mindset, oh, I need to catch up on sleep. I think that act of catching up on sleep is what's like kind of messing up the cycle to begin with. It's just setting you up for failure in the rest of the week.
Yeah, you can never like catch up with it, right? And so
Yeah.
you're just always, it's kind of like that hamster wheel thing. You're always running, you're not able to catch up.
Yeah. What time do you typically go to bed and wake up then?
So I usually end up going to bed about 9:30 or so. I
Solid.
mean, if it was totally up to me, it'd be closer to 9. But I have a
Yeah.
couple girls, and their dance stuff is late sometimes, and just got a lot of stuff going on. So I typically get to bed about 9:30 usually, and then I wake up about 4:40, 5 o'clock every day.
Solid. Yeah.
Yeah, that works pretty well for me. Now, I will tell you, so I mean, I'm pretty strict with that in terms of like that's my routine. There'll be times I don't just leave something just because I'm like, oh, it's 9 o'clock, I gotta go to bed tonight.
Mhm.
But I'm pretty consistent. But I will give myself, if it's like the Astros are playing in the World Series and the game's like midnight or something, then I'm staying up. It's I mean that's something that doesn't happen every day. So and I'm a lot more tired the next day. But to me, it's worth it. It's just something that doesn't happen every day, and I don't want to fall asleep and miss out something that I'll never be able to see again. So I give myself things, time to do that. But for the most part, I'm pretty consistent.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like that type of balance is what anything in fitness should be. Like when we have clients that are like, hey, we want you to go out, enjoy that event, enjoy that date night, or whatever your like vacation, like enjoy those types of things. We should have that balance too. Kind of like what I said about volleyball. Like for me, staying up to play volleyball is worth it to sacrifice sleep. So like there's always those like things where you get to like give yourself a little bit of grace and get to sacrifice that. But I think most of the time we need to be consistent and locked in with sleep, just like anything else.
Yeah, and then waking up early in the morning, I think I've learned over the years that it's such a quiet time.
Mm.
It's so more peaceful. There's not as many people out, and so one, I can get more things done. But it's just like I said, more peaceful. I just feel more at peace being at that time. And I feel like if I slept in, I would be like wasting part of the day. I could imagine like sleeping in now because I'd be like, oh my gosh, like I only have like half my day left,
Mhm.
type of thing. So it's that mindset.
Oh, 100%. I'm with you on that for sure. I love mornings. Like I wish I could get up earlier. It just doesn't physically could not do it, but I love the mornings. I feel like I get so much done. I love like getting up, watching the sunrise, just everything being quiet like you said. It's the best time of day, I'd say.
Yeah, and I'll do. I mean, vacation. Like if we go to the beach. I mean, I so love waking up early, going out there, and there's like no one out there on the beach, and it's just me and the waves and the sunrise, and it's super cool.
I've been doing that every morning right now. It's not bad at all.
Yeah, I'm jealous for sure.
So, I guess we should get into why sleep is important, especially when it comes to your fitness journey. Because, as we said, a lot of people underestimate just how much sleep impacts every single aspect of their health. It's not just about feeling rested, it literally controls how your body functions. So, when you prioritize sleep, your body's going to recover faster from workouts, you're going to burn fat more efficiently, and keep your metabolism strong. You're also going to build muscle faster, prevent breakdown, and your hormones stay balanced, helping you with energy, mood, hunger, and you also just handle stress better day to day. You don't feel as drained throughout the day.
Yeah, you got all the positive aspects there, right? I got so let's go. So what happens if to your body? How does your body respond if you don't get enough sleep, right? Or the quality of your sleep is not good. We're going to talk about it later, but sometimes people get enough sleep, but they wake up still tired, or they're just like, I'm get up a lot, or I don't feel like I had to get the quality. So we'll talk about that. But this is kind of where it gets really crazy, right? So people often don't realize how much bad sleep can ruin their progress. So here's a few things. So like one, you gain more fat, right? Even if you're eating the same calories. And a lot of people are like, what? That doesn't make any sense. How does that work out? Well, when you don't sleep enough, your body literally burns less fat and holds on to that weight, right? And so research shows that when people who sleep less than 6 hours a night have higher levels of body fat, even if their diet is relatively the same. And then your body just starts craving more junk food. I think that's one of the hardest things that to deal with the next day. And a lot of people don't think about this, but to me, that'd be like the worst part. You wake up and you're just craving more junk food because your hunger hormones, which are ghrelin and leptin, kind of get out of whack. And I saw, oh, shoot, I can't think of his name now. I was watching a podcast, and he likened ghrelin to the gremlins. You never know those little guys? And so I always remember like, oh yeah, gremlins, right? The gremlins are always hungry, right? So ghrelin is a hormone that kind of makes you feel hungry, right? It's kind of like telling your body, hey, we need food, to survive, and so you need to eat more food. And then leptin is a hormone that kind of tells you, all right, we're getting a little full here, we've had plenty. And so it's basically like your body's hunger and fullness signals. And so when you don't get enough sleep, it totally throws those off. It's almost like they just don't work correctly, and it just, like you said, it just kind of throws you out of whack.
Oh yeah, we've all experienced this. I'm sure. Like I definitely noticed that on the days where, like even today, where I got a little less sleep, I'm just definitely cravings are a little bit more there in the background. And I know I have a lot of clients that, or like when they come and say, "Oh, I'm having these cravings," especially late at night. I feel like that's when it usually hits. And
Yeah.
usually the first thing I look at is, "All right, where was your sleep at?" And 9 out of 10 times they're getting less than 6 hours and wondering why they're having these cravings or can't stop eating. So another issue with this is you lose more muscle instead of fat. So if you're cutting calories to lose weight, but you're not sleeping enough, your body burns muscle instead of fat. And this is because sleep is where your body repairs and builds muscle. So less sleep means less protein synthesis, which means slower muscle growth and more muscle loss.
Yeah, and that's one thing we never want is muscle loss, right? We've
Yeah,
talked
yeah.
about how hard it is to gain muscle, and the last thing we want to do is you work so hard in the gym, you work so hard, with all your nutrition, and then you're going to let sleep, cause muscle loss, right? So, man, this is super important when you're in a fat loss phase, right? So you could be doing everything right with your training, your nutrition, but if you're not sleeping, you just don't have quality sleep, then your body is it's almost like fighting against you, right? So the next one is your stress hormones go through the roof. We've talked about ghrelin and leptin, how they get all kind of out of whack. But it also raises your cortisol levels, which I think most of us know now. Those stress hormones, right? And that just makes it harder to burn fat and recover. It also lowers testosterone, which is the worst thing to have low testosterone if you're trying to build muscle and keep your energy, right? And so those high cortisol levels are going to make you feel more anxious as well, more stressed, feel more tired. And that's just going to make the workouts even, harder than they ever should be.
Yeah, and I always say sleep and stress are the biggest silent killers. Like you said, if you're doing all the right things and your body's not responding, it could be these two main things. And they go hand in hand too. Obviously, like you just said, when your sleep is off, then you have a lot more stress. And so they kind of feed off each other.
Yeah, if you
And
have a lot of stress, a lot of times it's harder to go to sleep, right?
yeah,
Or you should have
vicious
it.
cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is one of the biggest reasons why people hit plateaus in fat loss. They think they need to eat less or do more cardio, but in reality, their body is under so much stress from poor sleep that it refuses to let go of fat. And that's also why one of the biggest keys in Groundbreaker, that rebuild phase of our coaching process, is this exactly, and make sure we're building that foundation.
Yeah, and then recovery, right? We said that if you're training hard, but you're not sleeping enough, your muscles just can't repair properly. That's heard something one time that kind of likened it to almost like when you go to sleep, it's like that's when the maids come into your body and they kind of clear everything out and kind of clean up your system, and that's where your muscles just actually. A lot of people think when they're younger, especially, they think, okay, I'm building muscle in the gym, right? But really, the muscle build is the breakdown while you're sleeping, while your body is repairing everything, right? And so they just can't repair properly if you don't get enough sleep, and you'll feel sore longer. Sometimes you'll see that people are like, man, I've just been sore way longer than I thought I'd be. Or you'll be weaker in your workouts, and then and this is always hampers your progress. You're more prone to injuries.
And kind of going off the stress topic too, I think we've all had those days where we didn't sleep well and suddenly everything is just life or death or everything is just falling apart. At least maybe that's just me. But I know for me, things affect me way more emotionally. Like I feel like my emotional regulation kind of goes out the window. Like I'll catch myself just like breaking down and crying at every small inconvenience for no reason. When on a normal day, I'd be like, "This is fine. Like what is happening?" Like or I can't focus at work. Like I'm just very distracted, or training takes a hit. So like I know these types of things, especially just when it comes to the emotional and just like the stress management and like where my head's at mentally. I feel like that's the biggest thing that I notice when my sleep is off.
So you'd mentioned you said if you've had not enough sleep, your workouts you don't feel as good as that. So if someone came to you and said, "Hey, I didn't get great sleep last night. I'm pretty tired. Should I do my workout or should I skip it?" What would you? How would you approach that?
It depends. I would see like what the recovery's at, like how like I need a lot more biofeedback and like kind of where they're at. And obviously if it's a client, I have a lot more data. Like if they're very, very sleep deprived and they've been crushing it and super consistent, then I'd say I'd rather we prioritize sleep. But or it on the other end, I think most of the time I'd say I want you to still go in, just go a lot lighter, like take it easy, maybe 50%, or just get in, do a little something, like some mobility work so that way we can show up, check the box, stay consistent, but it's not super strenuous and adding a lot of extra stress and taking a toll on your body.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think if as long as you're feeling well enough to function in life and in general, I think it's great to go to the gym, and it doesn't mean you have to have a high intense workout.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's just to go, just do one exercise, or just like you said, to go to be consistent, to make sure that's part of your routine. I always think it's important to do that.
Yeah, I think most of the time that's the best option, especially because most people struggle to be consistent. I think also a lot of clients notice that their weight spikes, which again is normal. There's a lot of fluctuations, but
Right.
oftentimes it's purely just from sleep. Like even just one night of poor sleep can spike your weight, or that's why they have cravings or why their strength is low. So there are a lot of those like subtle differences that you notice just from one night of poor sleep. And so now we know how important sleep is. Let's talk about how do we actually fix this.
Yeah, this is the important part. How do we fix this? How do we get on track?
So there's a few fundamental keys. One is going to be set a consistent sleep schedule. This is kind of what we were talking about earlier too, and making sure that we're going to bed and waking up at the same time every single day, so that way we aren't giving ourselves that jet lag intentionally, even on the weekends too. So not trying to catch up on weekends. Our body thrives on routines, and this is going to help regulate your sleep hormones and like keep you in that normal cycle and keep you feeling performing at your best. And I also find setting an alarm for bedtime is super helpful for this, especially if you're one of those people that tends to push things back a lot. Like set those hard boundaries. I'll talk more about that and what I do with that later, but we need to have that set consistent routine even on weekends.
Yeah, I love that. Set an alarm for bedtime or go to bed, and you can use that for other things as well. But I think especially now there's so many things that are going to grab our attention, right? Whether we're like scrolling on our phone or watching TV or just other things going on that we may have good intentions, and we look up already. It's like 45 minutes past when we want to go to bed. So I think that's great to set an alarm. I think that's a really cool tip.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so another one which may be becoming more and more important as our society moves towards more caffeine in our lives, right? Is cutting out that caffeine in the afternoon, and everyone's very different with how they handle caffeine, right? And it can stay. I think a lot of us are pretty aware that it stays in our system like 6 to 8 hours. So even if you're drinking coffee at 4 p.m., it's still affecting you at 10. So a good idea is to set a cutoff time for caffeine, at least 6 hours. And like I said, everyone's different. A lot of times I'll tell people, oh, I can have a mocha or something or a coffee right before and then go to bed like 5 minutes later. And that is true, but I think it affects my quality of my sleep as well, and I want to get to that about alcohol as well. But even, and like I said, everyone's different. So even if you have coffee in the morning, it might affect you later on. So that's something you really have to pay attention to and almost kind of experiment and see what works best for you and decide when, because it's tough. I mean, there's a lot of times where I want to come home in the afternoon and have a bunch of caffeine, which I do. But I don't have as many issues falling asleep. But I think quality wise, I get up a lot, and it probably has a lot to do with the caffeine and things that I drink and eat at night.
Yeah. I'm I'm one of those people that like I don't have any caffeine. I don't drink any coffee, energy, nothing, and I never really have. But it's because the few times that I do notice that is my body is very, very sensitive to it in the sense that if I have caffeine, even just at like 6 a.m., like I will not be able to sleep at night. It is bizarre. Even if I have dark chocolate, like with that little amount of caffeine, like it messes me up. It's crazy, but that's why I've never had it. And like I also I'm fine with that though. Like I wake up like pumped up, energized, like I'm good. And so it's just been interesting to see that dynamic, especially compared to other people.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of those things like caffeine is just is so addictive,
Mm.
and nowadays, I think younger, generations are getting into caffeine like way earlier than we ever did, or at least I did when I was a kid. I don't think I really had much caffeine. You'd have like Cokes and stuff, but that doesn't have too much. But later on, like way later in life, and then alcohol. I mentioned that. I think having alcohol before sleep often helps people relax, right? And I think that's why a lot of people do it. They have a long day at work and they're like, oh, I want to have a glass of wine or something. And we've talked about the negative effects of alcohol, but beyond that, a lot of people are like, oh, well, it does help me to fall asleep or it does help me to relax, and it does. I mean, I'm, personal experiences. I know I'm like, oh man, I fall asleep so quickly, if I have a drink or something like that. But it does kind of mess up your REM sleep, and it kind of keeps you in those lighter stages of sleep. If you ever kind of really think about it, you probably don't dream as much, if you've had alcohol right before that. And it can also contribute to impairment of breathing at night, depending on who you are. And a lot of times you might fall asleep quickly, but then you tend to wake up in the middle of the night, especially when the effects of that alcohol wears off, right? So I think that's something to be aware of too. And a lot of times that recommendation is that if you are going to drink, try to do it earlier in the night so that your body can kind of wean off a little bit and you're sort of able to sleep without that in your system.
Yeah, I think it just it tricks people really because it makes you feel like you're relaxed more, sleeping, you're falling asleep better, but in reality, it's really just messing up your sleep. I know you probably have a lot more experience just because I know you like to have a few drinks here and there on Taco Tuesday or whatever. So, what's your experience like with that, and how do you approach that with your sleep?
Yeah, and I mean, you do. I mean, I get it. You do feel a little more laid back and you feel a little more relaxed, and then you lay down and you're like, oh, yeah, this is great, and you do go to sleep pretty quickly. But I do notice that I wake up more. I do notice that the sleep just doesn't, the quality just doesn't seem as good. I don't, like I said, I don't think I dream much, or at least I don't remember it, if I do. And so, it is. It's one of those things you feel great when you go to bed and you feel like you're going to get a good night's sleep and you wake up, you just don't feel as great.
Mhm. All right, another one is avoiding screens at least an hour before bed. This is a big one. At least it
That's
has
tough
been
for a
for
lot
me.
of people, right?
Yeah, but it's very impactful. So, blue light from your phone, TV, laptop, it all disrupts melatonin production, making it harder to fall asleep. So, I seriously think this is one of like the biggest things that people can do because and a lot of people get into bed and they scroll and then they end up scrolling when they end up pushing their bedtime back like we were saying. But also it's just like it's keeping you awake. Your mind thinks that it's daytime from the blue light. And so try switching to like turning off as many lights as possible and like switching to reading, journaling, some sort of stretching or something that doesn't involve screens before bed.
Yeah, I used to when I was younger, and I think it had to do with like anxiety and stress and stuff like that. Like I would sleep with the TV on,
Same.
and it just got to the point where I was like, I cannot go to sleep without a TV on. I had to have a TV on in every room that I ever slept on. And if I didn't, it was like a huge stressor. Like I got really nervous, anxious, and well, I didn't even allow myself to try to go to sleep. It was just already thinking like I'm not gonna be able to go to sleep. I don't have a TV
Mhm.
on to kind of take my mind off of things. And that's what I tell myself like, oh well, what I'm doing is I'm relaxing because I'm just focusing on what's going on the TV, and then I forget about what else is going on in life, and I kind of fall asleep, and the TV just goes off whenever, type of thing. So it took a really long time. Like I'm talking about like maybe within the last 5 years or so, where I've learned to not, go to sleep with a TV in, and now it's so much better because now I can sleep anywhere, it's just so much easier to fall asleep. But yeah, so I get it. It's a really hard thing to overcome if you kind of establish that as routine.
That's super interesting. I can definitely relate to that. I guess what how did you make that shift too? And like, did you have to dive deep and kind of address, was it because a lot of times it stems from internal stuff and mindset and your mentality and anxiety and stuff. Did you dive deep on that to address that? Or like, how did you approach getting off of that?
Well, I laugh because I'd love to be able to say that I, really dove deep and figured it out and worked that out. But really, I think one time just my TV didn't work, and in my room I was like, well, I mean, what can I do? And so I'd even start playing my little phone. I was like, well, I can watch TV through Netflix or something on my phone. I'd prop that up there, and then I think it was just one. Honestly, I don't remember. I think it was just one time I was like, I don't really need this. Let's just try it without it or something. And I slept fine, and I was just kind of like, let's do it again. I don't really need this on, and then I just tried to make it, and eventually I did, and I figured out how to do it. But yeah, it was really just because the TV stopped working. And I was like, well, I got to figure out something else here.
I love it though. That works. I know. I feel like I hear that from a lot of people. Like they say, like, "Hey, I need to have the TV on to fall asleep." And like, if you're one of those people, I think it's something to really start looking at and find a way to wean off of that as a coping mechanism to sleep. Because I used to be that person too. I used to always have to have background music or TV or something in general, just like all day and then at night too. But it was
Yeah.
because I couldn't stand to be alone with my thoughts. And so like I had to dive deep and address that and figure out how to be at peace with myself in order to get past that. And obviously that's a whole other topic and we can talk about that another time. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, and so another thing that I've tried to work on lately too is kind of like optimizing the sleep environment, right? So obviously I want it as dark as possible. You can do like blackout curtains. I've just tried to make sure all my blinds are closed, so there's no light coming in. I even I stayed at a hotel a few months ago, and it was downtown, and I guess they knew it was gonna be loud because you got this little set of earplugs and eye mask, and so I was like, oh, I'll wear the eye mask for fun, because I like having windows open. And so I left the windows open. I had the eye mask, and it's like pitch black, and I loved it. It was super cool. I don't know if I could do that every day, but I think that's a good option to have, especially if you're traveling or you're somewhere where you just can't get that light away. Keeping it cool is a huge game changer. I know a lot of studies show that at least 65 degrees or so is probably the best for the deep sleep. Um, Getting rid of noise distractions, using white noise, or like I said, earplugs are definitely helpful. And then you mentioned this like a gadget-free bedroom, right? So TV, cell phone, computer, those are all can be distractions. And even if we turn it off, if it's there, I know that my phone, I turn it off and I put it away, but if I hear a little like, bzz, I'm like, oh, wait. And it's like, if someone, this might be important. I'm like, just let it go. But then in your mind, you're like, well, what if I want to look at this, And so even something like that can, really throw you off. And then I know a lot of people don't have, I don't know, I guess probably people more now, so use like your phones for alarm clocks and stuff. But if you have a clock around or, some kind of visible clock where it's bright, just turning that clock away and other than just the light, sometimes like if I get up in the middle of the night and I look at the time, I've learned to change my mindset. I used to, when I'd get up, I'd see the time like, oh my gosh, I'd kind of panic or what time it was. And now I reverse it on myself. So this is something that I actually did like think about and change my mindset. If I wake up, let's say like at 2 o'clock to go to the bathroom or something like that, I'll look at it and go, oh, I have 2.5 hours of sleep left,
Yeah.
and I really pump it up like, oh yeah, this is gonna be great, 2.5, So instead of being like, oh my gosh, I got to wake up in a couple hours, I changed that to, oh man, this is gonna be great. I got 2 more hours of sleep, and so even if it's like 10 minutes, like, oh, 10 minutes, it's still 10 minutes, So I've just kind of changed my mindset on how I look at that.
I love that because I feel like a lot of times people will wake up and like check the time and then they start stressing and then that wakes you up more
Yeah.
so then you can't go to sleep and then it's a vicious cycle. And then you're like sitting there like awake just like stressing the entire time.
Yes. So if you can change that mindset and just look at it as a positive, like you have this much more time to sleep.
Yes. And yeah, the room setup is huge. I feel like I've become a snob with that. Like if there's any source of light, I'm just like, nope, I can't do it. And same with earplugs, huge. Especially like it for me. I live in an apartment, so if I hear my upstairs neighbors, like which is rare, but like sometimes I'll always have earplugs, so I can just put them in, and then we're good to go. So,
I
very
think it's nice.
important.
Yeah, I think it's nice just having that option, right?
Yeah.
Not that you want to do that every single day, but if you have that there, then that takes away that stress that might cause you to not be able to go to sleep, right? Like, oh, it's noisy. Oh my gosh, I won't be able to sleep. I
Yeah.
just pop in the earplugs.
Yeah, for sure. Another one is don't eat right before bed. Eating kind of like alcohol and kind of like caffeine, eating too close to bedtime can disrupt sleep by making digestion harder. So, we recommend trying to finish eating at least 2 to 3 hours before bed so that way your body can focus purely on recovery instead of digestion.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. A lot of people will kind of snack later on at night, and a lot of times it's just you get in the habit of sitting down to watch TV or something. You just grab something, but I think that is very important to kind of
Hmm.
have that. And you can even set alarm. Hey, this is the time where I'm gonna stop eating. I don't want to eat after that, right?
Yeah, I do that
And then,
exact thing.
what's that?
I do that exact thing.
Stop eating. You set the alarm to stop eating?
Yeah, well, I have an alarm for when I'm stopping work, and then where I like eat dinner, and then I have an alarm that's like wind down for bed, put your phone away.
Oh, I think that's great though. It just gives us a reminder. All right, we need to shift into getting ready for bed gear type of thing.
Hmm.
All right, and this might be, I don't know, maybe the most challenging thing we've talked about, right? Is managing your stress before bed, because I think this is where a lot of people, this is where their difficulty comes from, right? There are people who are stressed out or they have a lot on their mind, and it could be good stress as well. But there's just a lot going on, and in your body and your mind just struggles to shut down. It's kind of like just keeps going and going. You start thinking about all these things. So a couple things to think about is try to don't overschedule your day. So there's just so much going on, so there's no time left to unwind. And what I mean is give yourself some time at the end of the day, whether it's an hour, a couple hours, just to kind of relax. And ideally it would be spending time with your family or meditating or journaling or stretching or something that just helps you to wind down. And going back to setting up the room, even kind of changing the lights within your house, as you get closer to bed, kind of dimming that down so it's darker and darker as you go, kind of think kind of sets up your mind as well. Okay, it's starting to get ready for bed. I need to start relaxing. And so, listen to music as long as it's, a chill, relaxing type of music. But you just got to find something that works for you. But basically, you want to be able to put yourself in a mindset where I'm slowing down, I'm relaxing, I'm de-stressing, because then we start because when we can't fall asleep, what happens then we start adding another layer of stress, or now I can't fall asleep, and and that being said, if you do wake up in the middle of the night, or you just cannot go to sleep, sometimes it's better just to be like, okay, you know what? I'm not falling asleep, or I'm going to go do something. Instead of sitting there worrying about, I can't fall asleep, I can't fall asleep, I need to go to sleep. You just get up and do something relaxing. I've done that before where I woke up in the middle of the night, I couldn't go back to sleep or something. And I just go to another room and make sure, that it's really dark and read or do something or pray or do something really relaxing. And then that kind of de-stresses you as well.
Yeah, you need to have some sort of routine in place that's prepping your mind and body to relax and be ready for sleep. I like having some sort of reset in between work and wind down, because when you're working, like you're usually high stress, like your mind's firing, you're thinking about all these different things, and it's very hard to go from that directly to stress. So, like, you need that kind of interim where you have time for yourself, like you said, to relax, to wind down, spend time with family, whatever it is for you, and have that reset. I like particularly walks for this. It's such a good way to clear my mind and just kind of like break up, like, hey, this is my work block now, it's done, we're resetting, and then from there on out, it's relaxation and like winding down for bed. And in that time, it's also important not to expose yourself to any more work stuff after you do that, because then it's just going to start that cycle over and over. Like
Yeah.
once I clock out for work, like I cannot, like obviously like I can't really shut off my mind with that kind of stuff, but I'm not actively engaging in it and trying to plan stuff and do more work. It's like it's done.
Well, I love that idea of using things like a walk to kind of like end that block, right? Or start the block, however you want to look at it, and we've talked about how amazing, how beneficial it is to walk after a meal, right? So if you kind of set the routine, we have a meal, and we go for a walk, we get back from the walk, and that's kind of like setting the stage for, okay, now I'm into the de-stressing, getting ready for sleep type mode, even if it's a few hours later.
Hmm.
I'm winding down, I'm slowing down, I'm kind of relaxing. So I love that idea.
Yeah. You just gotta have some sort of nighttime routine. And again, like you said, find what works best for you. It's gonna be different for everyone. Another one is getting morning sunlight, also very underrated. Sunlight regulates your circadian rhythm, which helps control sleep. So try to get outside for 5-10 minutes in the morning just to help your body's natural sleep cycle reset and be in line, even just throughout the day too. But I think particularly like morning and evening light are super important.
Yeah, and this is something that I've learned recently within the last few years of how important the getting the morning sunlight. We've talked about how important sunlight is when we walk outside, just soaking that is, and we just feel better. We feel that energy. So having that night or having that right sunlight exposure, daylight is really the key to regulating those daily sleep patterns. If you look at a long time ago, we would wake up when the sun rose, and then there was no light, electricity or anything. So we'd go to bed when it was dark out, and that was our natural circadian rhythm. So we want to try to get outside as much as possible in natural sunlight, especially in the morning. The recommendation is like at least 30 minutes each day if you can. Wake up with the sun or use very bright lights in the morning. And sleep experts they'll recommend that especially if you have problems falling asleep, you should try to get at least an hour of exposure in the morning, sunlight, and then turning down the lights before bedtime. So get that sunlight as much as you possibly can.
We love the sun, and clients are
Yes.
always very shocked by this too, just because it seems so simple and dumb. You're like, oh, like a few minutes of sun, like how much of a difference can it make? But no, it works.
Yeah, it really does. It really does.
All right. And lastly, supplements can be useful. Obviously, we want to make sure that we're getting all the basics down, but the supplements can be useful when it comes to sleep, particularly magnesium glycinate. This one helps to relax the nervous system, ease muscle tension, and improve sleep quality. Also, some that I love are GABA in particular. That has helped me a ton with the anxiety and shutting my mind down and kind of reducing stress, making it a lot easier to wind down. And kind of same thing with L-theanine. It also helps calm the brain, reduce stress. Glycine is another one that can improve sleep quality and even help with muscle recovery overnight. So those are kind of like the main stable go-tos that we recommend for sleep. And actually, I have one supplement from Legion, who is a company that I work with. It's called Lunar, and it literally has like basically all those, I think, except for magnesium. So I take that separately, but it's done wonders for me. It's my go-to every single night,
Oh,
especially
so
the
you
GABA.
use Lunar, huh? Do you like it? So you like it?
Oh yeah, I love it. Like I've been using it consistently since they came out, and it's been amazing. I think the GABA really makes a big difference for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll use. So I use magnesium for that, as well as, I mean, there's just supposed to be like so many benefits to magnesium,
Oh yeah.
and that's the main thing I use for sleep. I feel like I've gotten the quality with just magnesium. So but all those supplements are just something to think about if you're having some issues.
Yeah, I think magnesium is one that basically I recommend everyone take. Like I think most people can benefit from that, just from a recovery standpoint too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so as far as my sleep routine now, I figured it'd be good to kind of go over what I've been working on that because it's been such a big focus for me and something I've struggled with too. Like I know a lot of people have. So kind of like I mentioned, I have a very hard cutoff from work. So usually 7:30 if I have to push stuff back. Like that's when my 7:30 is when my alarm goes off, and that's like my first one, like I said, where I need to eat dinner and start winding down, wrapping up work stuff. And then at 8 o'clock, that's the hard cutoff is hey, phone is going away. It is now officially time to completely wind down, like start the nighttime routine and everything. And so I have those alarms. And then my apps also shut off. My work apps shut off at 7:30, so that way I can continue with that hard cutoff, and I'm not caught up in work stuff and keeping my mind going and getting stressed with that kind of stuff. So screen limits or app limits on your phone are super super helpful. I've gotten so much value out of this. Like you can set the exact schedule for when certain apps will shut off. So all of my work apps will shut off at a certain time, and I can go and adjust it too. So it's been amazing. I've really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I think those are fantastic tips.
Yeah.
Um,
And then I'll go on my walk to reset. In between that, I'll have my dinner. And then, like I said, 8 p.m. on, no phone. And so I'm just doing my nighttime routine. And with that, it's nothing crazy. I just like taking a long, hot shower. I'll play some chill music. And then I'll read and journal in bed. And then just pass out and go to bed. Easy.
Yeah, I love all those, and I think you mentioned this earlier, but you really just have to figure out like what works best for you. All those are fantastic, but everyone has their own individual life and everything that's going on, and so you just have to figure out how can I just really kind of just slow down and get set for sleep as opposed to just running through life and then all of a sudden, oh, it's time for bed. I got to go to bed now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the biggest thing, like the biggest limiting factor for me as far as sleep has been work and letting off my brain and make sure that I have that set off. So that's why screen limits and the alarms have been so helpful. And then just not checking your phone that last hour plus before bed has also been huge. So yeah, those are like the biggest things that I find that have limited my sleep in the past. But what about you? What does your nighttime routine look like, or how do you approach that?
Yeah, so one of the things I've tried to do recently is not eat, after a certain time. So once I'm done with dinner, I'm done. I don't eat snacks or anything like that. And when I first did that, I thought that'd be really difficult because I was that guy that would like have like a bowl of cereal or something. This was when carbs didn't matter. It was like whatever, you can eat whatever you want, right? Sugar didn't matter. But so I'd have like a bowl of cereal like right before bed or something like, oh, I feel so great, type of thing. And I'd always have some kind of snack. And then it got to the point where I'd be like, have like a high protein snack, which I think is fine. But I got to the point where like, I want to kind of cut everything off after dinner. And I feel so much better. And I think it does help with going to sleep and feeling better and your body kind of slowing everything down. But probably the biggest thing for me, and this has to relate to just being at peace and being able to slow my mind down and getting rid of all those distractions, and that was one of the things too that I found. And this is when my TV died. And I was like, what do I do now? I was like, well, how about now would be a great time to pray. I need to pray more anyway. So, I pray before bed, and now it's like I rarely actually get through the prayer. I'm like halfway through, all of a sudden I wake up, I'm like, oh, I didn't even finish my prayer. But I think it just really puts me in a just so relaxed, peaceful state. Like I'm talking to God. I know that He's just in charge and control of everything, and everything else goes out of my mind. And if I do find myself thinking about all kinds of random things, I'm like, dude, why are we thinking about this? You're supposed to be talking to God right now. So why don't you like shift back, talk to God, hang out, even if I'm stressed out about things, I'll talk to Him about it. But He just gives me that peace, and it's so much easier to fall asleep. I'm like, I don't need a TV. I got, God's here. He's taking care of it, type of thing. So it's that's really helps me out, and that kind of goes along with the meditation. Just like I said, just kind of getting rid of all those thoughts and things that are running around through your head.
I love that. I feel like that's such a perfect time to do that before bed. Just wrapping up the day and then getting all those worries and stress, like taking that burden off of you.
Yeah, I think, I think it's awesome to pray any time of day, anytime you want. He's always there listening to you. But I really I love praying in the morning. I kind of feel like, just with the whole health journey, I feel like it just kind of establishes the day, lets me go into the day feeling like He's in charge, He's in command, so it's going to be a great day. That's actually when I wake up, the first thing I do is I look in the mirror and I say, today's going to be an awesome day. I was like, it's God's in command, God's in control. I say something like that, and it kind of sets the stage. And I like praying in the morning about everything and everyone that I want to pray for. And then at the end of the night, and I'll pray throughout the day, random stuff, and then I'll pray at night, that just really kind of slows me down, just really gives me that peace. So,
I love that.
all right. So bottom line, if you're not prioritizing sleep, then you're definitely holding yourself back from your real progress. So you're going to burn less fat, you'll lose more muscle, you'll feel exhausted, probably going to be unmotivated. You're going to struggle with more stress, cravings, recovery. So it's just so very important to prioritize sleep.
Yep. Once you start getting high quality sleep, everything else feels a lot easier. Your workouts feel better. Fat loss happens faster. Cravings go away. You actually feel good throughout the day. So if you've been feeling stuck lately, start here, fix your sleep, and watch what happens. So if you found this episode helpful, share it with a friend who needs to hear this. And if you're serious about leveling up your fitness, feel free to join our private community. We run free challenges, coaching calls, give exclusive content that you won't find anywhere else. And we will drop that link in the show notes. And as always, we will see you guys next week.